This is Melissa, and she's having a progressive treatment today. It's called the Refresher Peel. Now, Melissa's never had any peeling done before. She's never had a facial. And so this is a new experience for her, and she's a little apprehensive. And so I'm going to walk her through this very carefully and explain to her everything that I'm doing so that she feels real comfortable with it. Right now I'm using an initial cleansing and granular scrub combination to just get the skin prepped and surface residue removed. She's got the pumpkin enzyme cleanser with the brightening scrub. Now and remove this with the wet gauze. And Melissa has been pre-treating her skin for the last 2 weeks in a home care regimen. We've had her on the skin brightening gel, our blemish complex cream, and she's been using the pumice wash, which is a pretty strong granular scrub that she will not continue to use. It was just for this period of time. But 2 primary issues that Melissa has with her skin are hormonal breakouts, particularly the lower chin area for her, and it seems to be fairly consistently ongoing for her. And then she has hyperpigmentation, and the skin just needed to be really livened up. And already she's pretty pink from all of this pre-treat, and you can probably notice that on the camera, that her skin is just a little slightly pink and maybe somewhat tender. Now, this is considered a progressive treatment. But because of her pre-treating the way she has, we're also working towards healing the skin. And I may be adjusting this slightly as I watch her skin and we work with each layer and step to see how she does. You want to just be sure and remove this mixture of brightening scrub and pumpkin cleanser thoroughly with the wet gauze. And use your gauze as a guideline to how clean you've gotten the skin. Look at it. Go back, feel the skin, pay attention to how it's feeling as you're cleaning. And of course she still has a lot of the granulars on her skin, so we're going to use the dry gauze to remove those for her. I see a considerable improvement in Melissa's skin just in the 2 weeks that she's been using her home care. It's been a pretty active, aggressive treatment. She was quite sensitive for a few days. We added the blemish complex cream just for a couple of nights when she started to have some eruptions coming out around this chin area, and it really helped to kill the bacteria, soften those up quite a bit, and take a lot of the swelling out of those lesions. Nice firm pressure and just lay it into the tissue. Now you'll be feeling that little prickle that I described, and it may seem even a little intense because of the pre-treating you've done. Don't hesitate to tell me how you're feeling. If you're uncomfortable, I can always rinse this very quickly. Like I said, for about 1 minute. If you can get this on the skin for a minute, and maybe even 2 minutes on a thicker skin, this just helps to soften up all these cells so that as we go in and abrade with our micro, it will lift these a lot easier, removing all the dead skin cells. Feeling okay?
Yes.
Describe how this feels to you.
It stings just a little bit.
A little?
It's not too bad.
Okay. And are you stinging a little more in those areas on the chin where you've been using your blemish complex cream? Or is it all over stinging?
It's in general all over.
Okay. Go ahead and take your little pads off. You want to have the iPads on the eyes when you start applying this acid, just as a protection for your client, obviously, so that if any of that dripped down, her eyes would be protected. A real nice thorough rinse with this. Alpha hydroxys do not self-neutralize. They continue to work and seep into the skin, and if you don't have it thoroughly removed, it can create some irritations or burns. Now she's a lot pinker, so even that 1 minute of application for her was really impactful to her skin. Now Melissa, is there any place that you feel this more than anywhere else?
I felt it a little more on my forehead.
Okay. It's always good to ask them that in case there's some place where the skin has been more sensitive, some more has seeped in a little bit more that you didn't quite remove thoroughly, and go back over that area again. I usually like to give 2 rinses with this anyway. Looks real good though. You handled that very well. Oh, very good. And that should feel real soothing to your eyes, but what it does is it helps to, oops, that dropped in my cup. There we are. There, sorry, that took a little bit longer. This really protects the eyes when we start to do the microdermabrasion. It's nice and soothing, helps to keep any of that crystal from filtering in there and being irritating to the skin. And I like that better than iPads and the little goggles. It just doesn't get in the way of my work. Now I do want to take a dry pad and just blot where maybe some of the drops seep out a little bit. You want to give their eyes a moment to adjust with this. Someone described this to me when I first started doing it. They said it felt like a cat licking you. Well, anyone that's ever had a true microdermabrasion knows that it's not like a cat licking you. It's more like a lion licking you. To me, it has that sensation, but that's kind of generally how it will feel. So I'm going to just lay it on your forehead. It's going to feel strange to you the first time, but as you get used to me working around your face, I think you'll become very accustomed to this. And so I'm just going to go across your top of your forehead here. Feel that? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's about what you're going to have all over your face. There's going to be some areas where you're going to feel a little bit more abrasion, but that's generally what we're going to do. Okay? You comfortable with all that? Okay, so take a deep breath, and we will begin. I might as well stay right here at the forehead, since it's where I started for. You want to hold the skin nice and taut and go in short strokes so that you don't drag over the skin. Microdermabrasion is an excellent tool to merge with many different acids and enzymes. It's also a great treatment for specific skins that do not do as well with certain acids. And if you learn to pre-treat with milder enzymes and other active formulas that are not quite as strong as some of the acids, and then you do your microdermabrasions, the skins will respond very nicely to that. This is also a good tool for your oilier skins of color. You have a lot of ways to work with your microdermabrasion, but I do find it's most effective when you merge and combine other modalities with it. what's happening right now are these corundum powder crystals are being spiraled down onto her skin at a very fast pace, abrading away those surface cells, and then a vacuum pressure is lifting up the loose and dead cells and the some of the excess crystal. There's also stimulation of the basal cell, and that's very rejuvenating for the skin. It's important for you as the esthetician and the practitioner to work your body around with and go from side to side so that you keep your body straight and that you don't get your shoulders bent up and hold your neck in a way that after so many treatments your neck would begin to bother you. So I like to go from side to side. I adjust my client's face as I need it so that I am not in any way putting any extra pressure on my body. You doing all right? Mm-hmm. Okay. See, this isn't as bad as you thought, is it?
No.
You want to make sure you hold the skin real nice and taut. And that looks good. I'm going to work a little bit more for her along this jawline and where she's got the breakouts, and she's also got some extra pigmentation in through here. And I want to get. The corundum powder is very antibacterial, antimicrobial, and so it's excellent for a skin that has impurities, breakouts, excess oil. If I can get around here. There we go. Now if you're going to do more than one pass, which I don't think I will need to for Melissa's skin, but sometimes if I want a little more depth to the treatment, I'll do a second pass and I will then just go in the opposite direction, kind of following a crisscross pattern. She's got a lot of little impacted pores even down underneath the nose area, and I do want to kind of get in there with this. Soften that up. I want to take this right into the hairline, around the earlobes, back along this jawline area. She's got more pigmentation on this side too, so I want to work that just a little bit more for her. You want to try and have it be very even and not leave track marks. I'll turn you that way. If you turn the face a little bit, you'll get a little more pull on the neck area, and you can hold that tissue nice and firm. I still like to watch real closely as I'm doing this, making sure I'm not going too deep. And noses are all very different sizes and shapes, and sometimes you don't have a lot of room to work, but just get right in there and just follow the line and go over it. Okay, very good. She was really nervous about this, but she's doing great. And you'll find that with your clients that have not had a treatment before, they are going to be apprehensive and nervous, and so you want to walk them through that first treatment and always explain to them what they're going to feel, what the sensations will be like, And don't make it sound like, oh, it's just a breeze, you'll be fine, because everyone has a different pain tolerance, different sensitivities, and she could have laid on this table and everything could have bothered her so much, and she would have been in a lot of pain. And if I told her, oh, it's nothing, this is just real relaxing, I think she would have been disappointed and maybe a little upset with me. So I like to let them know actually the worst, that this is going to hurt, you're going to feel some different sensations that are a little uncomfortable, and then if they make it through it without that, that's great. Okay, now we want to cleanse her with the corundum powder on, and you can make a choice to either remove it and just brush it away if you don't feel like you need to use the corundum as an additional scrub. But for her skin, and this being sort of a progressive little treatment, I would like to do that just so she'll get a little more benefit out of this crystal. This now is acting like a little light scrub for her, and it's helping to further remove any of those dead skin cells that were loosened and softened from the microdermabrasion but that did not totally lift off. And she'll probably feel this a little bit more because at this point she is more sensitive. And that's something you would pay attention to and determine if you wanted to use this way or if you wanted to just brush them off the skin and then cleanse. And the first place you want to lay your nice clean wet gauze is right on the eyes. Remember, she has the drops in her eyes, and so you want to wipe away any crystal that may have sifted in around that eye area, because when she opens her eyes, I don't want her to have anything in them. And it will take a couple of rinses to get this off of her. But at this point you can go back now, feel that skin, feel what you've achieved, how much crystal is still on there, how much more you need to rinse it. Unless you bring the skin to pinpoint bleeding, you break the skin in any way, you have lesions that are opening and bleeding at all, keep your gloves on then. And I wouldn't continue with the next step. You want to stop here. But she's fine. That's not the case with her skin. Everything is good, and I wanted to feel her skin just to see how it's doing and what we've accomplished. I love to use my fingertips to really listen to the skin and feel what's going on. So when you can do that, it's a good way, a good tool to learn to use your own sensations with your hands. It's a little hard to do that with your gloves on, but for their protection and your protection, if you have any cuts or they have any cuts, always wear your gloves. Now we're going to apply the 20% lactic. And I'm going to put some eye pads on her. And this will just help to give you some coverage and protection in case any of that solution drips. And we'll do, you might need the fan, Melissa, so I'm going to go ahead and hand you this. And then, because it may have a little sting since your skin has been so freshly pinkened and stimulated from the microdermabrasion. Now we've saturated the gauze with the 20% lactic, and I'm going to just smooth it on all over. And you may feel a little heat through your cheeks more. And I'm not wearing a glove to do this. If your fingers are not real super sensitive, the 20% lactic is not a problem to use without a glove. It actually softens my fingertips some, so I kind of like it. But you'll have to determine that for your skin, your hands, and how that feels. But it is one that's a little milder and so beneficial at this step because you can work it into the skin, and what it's doing is it's seeping into the tissue and regenerating the skin more, but it's also polishing, if you will, lifting, kind of removing away some more of those surface skin cells and what we've taken off with the corundum and the micro. And so I like to take it and work it into the skin for a little bit, just for a minute or two. Actually 2 to 3 minutes is good if the skin can tolerate it, if they're not real sensitive. Now if the skin has been broken in any way, there's been any bleeding, any bacteria, pinpoint bleeding, anything like that, you would not do this step, and you would of course be wearing your gloves through the whole treatment. Good rinse. Usually 2 rinses is beneficial because this can seep into some of those little crevices, and you want to make sure every bit of it is removed. At this point we can take her eye pads off. Go over the eyes. Now make sure if you go over the eyes like I'm doing right now, you're doing flipping the other side so you don't have any of your 20% lactic on your pad. I started my removal with this side and went like this. Now we can go all over with water. Nice good rinse all over the mouth, just in case some seeped in around this area. Okay. I'm going to let her hold the fan for a moment to dry the skin a little bit more naturally, and then I'll go back and feel and make sure everything is off before I spray her with the oxygen. Okay, we have rinsed the 20% lactic off of Melissa. Her skin is nice and smooth and dry. And now we're going to go into our nutrient applications. You have 2 options to use. The first being the oxygen system, which is what I'm going to do today. And then nutrient application 2 is where you would use the pumpkin oil to work it into the skin, use the chilled milk mask, and then finish with antioxidant complex serum. The idea here is to put a lot of nutrients into the skin, a lot of antioxidant support, and so I'm going to do that with the oxygen and with some specialized vitamins that will really drive into the skin when we add the compress. Let me go ahead and do that. We're also preparing a mix for her skin. A solution that's being put on gauze and chilled that adds humectants to the skin, and that's what we'll be doing next, and I'll explain that a little bit more. Now this cannot really be massaged per se. It's a very thick, it's almost like baby vitamins. It's just a really nice potent active blend of pure vitamins, and I'm just going to melt it into the skin. An isotonic solution is a humectant. It's got the sodium PCA, and it draws in moisture into the skin. And this feels really good after your microdermabrasions and these types of progressive treatments and any of your active enzymes. If you've done extractions and then you lay your gauze over those areas that were extracted like I'm doing now, it really reduces inflammation and swelling and makes them look so much nicer. Okay. And then we're going to wrap her face in a heated compress. And this is pretty moist. There's a lot of solution on this, but I didn't pour a lot on. This has been in the refrigerator, and this formula tends to just draw moisture from it to itself, and it gets more liquidy as it sits in the cold. The cold activates it, and so that's why it's real nice and moist. And we're going to take our heated compress, which is pretty warm. You want to always test it. Hold your ends where they're dry so you don't burn your fingers, but then I kind of like to lay it on my arm a little bit so I can feel just how warm it really is. She does have a covering on the face, so it's not like you're applying this to a bare skin, but she's had a lot of work done, so you don't want to have it overheated. Also, do it very slowly, kind of lift up in the middle chin area. That's where more fabric sits. It gets a little thicker there. Hold that out a moment. You always want to know if your client is claustrophobic. They won't be able to tolerate this if they are. It's going to feel like they're feeling a little smothered. You may have to leave the mouth uncovered so that they can breathe through the nose and mouth. If it's still too much for them, you may have to just pull it back a little. You don't want to press this down. It's too hot and uncomfortable. You doing okay, Melissa? Okay. A nice thing to do at this stage is to take a pure essential oil, put it in your hands, and do a little aromatherapy while these nutrients are on the skin and marinating with this heated compress. I like to lay my hand right on the chest area and have her take a few deep breaths. It's soothing and calming, feels real good to her. The oxygen is filled up, and right now I'm just getting pure oxygen coming out, but I need to activate my nutrients, which this has a mixture in it of sodium chloride and vitamins. This is what's in the nebulizer in the little ball. I'm going to turn it on. This particular delivery system is very powerful. It really drives this oxygen and vitamins into the skin. So you just remove your towel. Lift your gauze away. The skin already looks real nice and moist. And then you start applying your oxygen. This is a wonderful finish to many of your treatments. Oxygen activates the healing process, gets the skin in a place of a mode of healing, as well as adding antioxidants to the skin. And I've mentioned this before, but when you're breaking the skin down, like we did with our treatment with the acids and the microdermabrasion, we now want to build it back up. And so if you continually have that process going, breaking down, building up, you get more strengthening and health to the skin tissue. And not only all of the great benefits of the vitamins and the oxygen, this just feels really wonderful to your clients. Put it a little bit more in those areas where you have got lesions and eruptions. Bacteria cannot live in the presence of oxygen, so giving it a good blast of oxygen is very, very beneficial. Into the skin very nicely, gently. Don't do a lot of massage. Just let the skin drink it up with those oxygen nutrients that's already on there. This you can kind of pat in around the eyes. Let that absorb a moment, and now we'll do our sunblock. This is a sunblock that can be used on a lot of skins, regardless of skin type. It's an SPF 30. I'm choosing to use the tinted, and it's got a nice blend of aloe vera as a good healing support with the titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. I'm just smoothing that on lightly. This, like I said, helps. I choose the tinted, that's what I wear, and I like to wear just a little bit of powdered minerals over my skin after I do this. And you can see how it just kind of begins to diffuse some of the redness. So the skin looks like it's got just a little coverage, but still keeps it very moist and pretty, very dewy. So that is our progressive peeling treatment for Melissa. It's called the Refresher Peel, and we're going to have her sit up in a moment and have a little drink of water, and that completes the treatment.
First of all, after using Rhonda Allison products, I found that I was getting incredible results on my clients. Secondly, I noticed an increase in the retail that I was selling, and I couldn't keep the products in, and that's still one of my problems today, just not being able to keep them in stock because they sell so quickly. As far as in the beginning with the acids, I was a little bit apprehensive and starting with the progressive pills, and then I became very comfortable with the progressive pills, and then I went into the mid-depth and saw the difference in my client's skin, and it's really, I see anywhere, I believe, from a 5-year to a 10-year difference in the age once they've started using the products. And I actually started on myself, and I couldn't believe the difference. And now I find it a lot of fun. In the beginning, I was a little bit apprehensive, just working with them, and now I feel so comfortable, and it's just been a whole new avenue.